Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the May 29th, 2024 Charter Chat. I'm Mifala Fairley. Next slide, please. And before we get started, I just want to remind you that the information that we provide is for your reference only. If you are going to follow up on any of this information, please review the laws and regulations and consult with your own legal counsel to make sure that the way you're applying it applies to your specific situation. Next slide, please. Just a couple of Zoom etiquette things. If you are not muted, would you please put yourself on mute? You may put questions into the chat and there will be an opportunity for a question and answer at the end. And as you likely heard at the beginning, this session is being recorded and we are only recording in the main room. The breakout rooms will not be recorded. So today we're going to do some very brief introductory information items, and then we'll be reminded of what's in the parking lot. We will hear the answers or review answers for two questions that came up in the April Charter Chat. And we'll talk about some legislation, get a few updates on the State Board of Education, and we'll hear hot topics on LCAP and the budget. Next slide, please. So I'm Mifala, and I'm from the Santa Clara County Office of Education, and we are 1/3 of CASI. Our two partners, next slide, please, include the California Charter Authorizing Professionals, Tom Hutton and Dave Patterson and Debbie Deal, as well as CDE. Next slide, please. All right, so this is just a reminder of what we currently have on the parking lot. These are questions that have come up and we don't yet have an answer for them. However, we're still working on it. And if you have questions, keep them coming. If we don't have a question, an answer immediately, we'll add it to the parking lot and then give you an answer as soon as we get it. And speaking of which, we're going to segue into two questions that came up in our last Charter Chat. Next slide, please.
Okay, so that's an opportunity for me to talk about the fact that is there a template for charter reauthorization? And unfortunately, there isn't. There's not a template yet. Education Code Section 47607 and 607.2 set the renewal requirements, and Ed Code Section 47605 sets forth the petition review process, which it would be the same process in terms of the reviewing of the resubmission for renewal. I also suggest you look at our April QRT, Road to Renewal presentation on the CASI website. That's really helpful for those who, in fact, trying to get a handle on it. We have listed there in our resources, LA Unified provided a sample of their renewal documents that you also might find helpful. And I must say that CCAP is also working on updating a template that can be used. So that one is still one where it's a work in progress. And the second question is the renewal criteria process the same for DASH schools? And Ed Code Section 47607 holds that the DASH schools are presumptively renewed for 5 years, and the authorizer shall consider performance on state and local indicators. The dashboard, just to make sure you're aware, uses a 1-year grad date, different than CCI, and alternative metrics applicable to charter schools based on the pupil population served. Now, there's a process where there should be a mutual agree to discuss alternative metrics with the charter school by the authorizer. If that hasn't been done, that needs to be done so you have some closure. But under the law, that's something that's done upon charter approval. And closure for a DASH school is if it is in the best interest, is only if it's in the best interest of students. Now, for more information on DASH schools, we do have a quarterly regional training scheduled for July 9th, 2024, coming up from 1 to 3 that is focused on DASH. Next slide.
Okay, so I would love for you to take a moment and rename yourself, which I have not yet done. You're going to have your name followed by the name of your organization. And this will actually help us put you into groups. We are no longer doing regional groups. We're kind of mixing it up so folks can get ideas can be cross-pollinated across the state, across regions. So all we need is your name and the name of your organization. And I will rename myself momentarily. Okay. Next slide, please.
All right. So right now, as of May 24th, that was the deadline for any active bills to get through their initial respective houses and move on to the other house. So we currently have 4 bills that I want to give you some information on. On May 21st, AB 2254 passed the Assembly and is now starting the Senate committee process. On May 21st, SB 1380 failed to make it out of the Senate and is now an inactive bill. Last month, SB 1409, the hearing was canceled at the request of the author and is also now an inactive bill. And SB 1477 has passed the Senate and is now in the Assembly. So we'll watch and see what happens as those 2 bills continue to move forward. Next slide, please. So the state board, the California State Board of Education met on May 8th. Non-classroom based funding determinations were reviewed, and the state board also approved moving forward with the federal charter school program grant. So the CDE is applying for that grant. The next meeting for the state board is scheduled for July 10th through 11th, next month in July. The Advisory Commission on Charter Schools, their meeting was held on April 9th, and they will next be have their meeting on June 4th. Next slide, please.
Okay, we're moving on to hot topics.
Hey, Nifla, just real quick,
yes.
can I just chime in from the Peanut Gallery? Just for those who don't know it, that grant is the grant that funds CASI. So we're all cheering on Allison as she works for the department to get that grant application ready, and hopefully that we'll be able to continue our CASI efforts.
Thanks. Good information, Tom. All right, hot topics. First, we're going to have Matt up with a program update. Next slide.
Just 2 items briefly for program update. First is LCAP preparation. It's that time of year. LCAPs are to be updated annually and approved by the charter board and submitted to their authorizer and to the county office by June 30th each year. So that's coming up. So make sure your charters are meeting that deadline or they're somewhere in the process at this point. The 2024-25 LCAP is the beginning of a new 3-year cycle of goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes that address state and local priorities. So it's a brand new 3-year cycle. LEAs, your charter schools, must complete the 2023-24 annual update to conclude the previous 3-year cycle, as well as completing the 2024-25 LCAP package. So they have to close it out. It's in DTS, the annual update for 23-24. They must do that, and as well as complete the 24-25 LCAP. The components of the LCAP for the 2024-25 LCAP year must be posted to the charter's website and submitted to you all as one document assembled in the following order: LCFF budget overview for parents, 2023-24 LCAP annual update, plan summary, engaging educational partners, goals and actions, increased or improved services for unduplicated pupils, action tables, and the instructions. Don't forget the instructions. This list is available on the resource page. So if you didn't catch all that, don't worry about it. Next topic is school closures and student records. Pursuant to Education Code 47604.32, A charter school authorizer must provide timely notification to CDE of a school that ceases operations. Please see the CDE Charter School Closures webpage for additional information regarding documentation and notifications of closure action, retention and transfer of records, financial closeout, disposition of liabilities and assets, and the responsibilities of charter authorizers. CASI participants have asked previously about transfer of student records during a closure. Per the CDE's Student Records and Transcript website, the CDE does not have access to student records. For public schools, if a school is closed, they're to contact the local district or county office of education. As charter schools are public schools, the question as to how to access student files for closed charter schools is based upon the school's charter petition. Most charters upon closure will send their files to either their charter management organization or a sister school within their organization, if applicable, or to the authorizer. When files are missing, it becomes necessary to use the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System, or CalPADS. Next slide, please. Shalu.
Thank you, Matt. So as you heard about LCAP on the program side, I want to share a little bit how it relates to on the fiscal side. While LCAP has been known as a program compliance document, it is the document that should be closely connected to the budget. It's the LCAP goals that should drive the budget, not the other way around. While you all are reviewing the LCAP, make sure the program and fiscal teams are communicating with each other while reviewing this document, and keep in mind that budget overview for parents should match the charter school adopted budget. That's the first thing when, on the fiscal side, when I and Cynthia look at the document, we ensure that the BOP tallies to what they have submitted in their adopted budget. And ensure that all the components of LCAPs are submitted and posted on the school's website, which includes, as Matt mentioned, the budget overview for parents, the LCAP template, action tables, and LCAP instructions. And all the elements that are required to be addressed are addressed, including, if applicable, the 15% concentration grant add-on that's used to increase the number of credential and or the classified staff who provides direct services to pupils. Next, we just want to briefly remind about the adopted budget. Just like district, the charter schools must complete and approve their annual budget as per Education Code 47604.33. The charter schools are required to submit their board approved annual budget by July 1st to their authorizers. Next slide, please.
Okay, thank you, Matt and Shalu. We are going to move into our breakout rooms now. We're very, very early. So team, I'm not sure how much time we want to spend in breakout rooms and how much time we want to leave for report outs and discussion.
Well, I know there was a question from Zach about what was, was there anything important to share from the state board meeting with regards to non-classroom based funding determinations? The answer is no. They just simply went through the process of approving the ones that were in process.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Maybe.
Sorry, Zach. I wish there was more to give you. No,
that's all right. My charters ask me almost every week if anything new's happened, and I kind of give them the same answer you just gave me.
So I wish there was something new to report, but until everybody has got everything figured out with the LAO, the FCMAT report, all of these various things, they're just moving forward in process.
Yep.
Also, I received a message from Yostira asking for the resource page. So we send that out after the charter chat is over, and it's also posted on the CASI webpage on the CDE website. So you'll be getting that via email.
And it's also currently in the participant folder.
Okay.
So
the link, the link to the participant folder is now there.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
And I put the link for the Jamboard for us to be able to move into the
breakout rooms.
breakout
Great.
rooms.
So
Thank you.
just a couple of things before we go into breakout rooms. One is every month, Tom is looking for someone to facilitate the breakout rooms. And so he is now requesting, as you can see on this slide, that if you would like to volunteer to facilitate a future breakout room, just send him a direct message right here, right now, and he will be contacting you to do it. It's very simple. You're just kind of guiding the discussion and either taking notes or asking someone else in the room to take notes for you, and then you report out on what the group discussed. Okay, so I want to make sure that everyone is in the right breakout room when we get there. So as I mentioned earlier, we're not doing regional breakout rooms anymore. We're mixing it up. So we'll have 3 breakout rooms with authorizers and 1 breakout room with non-authorizers. And if you are the facilitator for an authorizer breakout room, please make sure that anyone who is not an authorizer goes back to the main room and gets redirected to the correct place. We have plenty of time, I think, today. Our suggestion was that only first-time attendees introduce themselves. But if you would like to do a little bit more of an introduction, I think we have plenty of time for that. If not, then it's up to you, facilitator. Let's see. I think that's it. Please make sure that you grab the Jamboard link that is in the chat right now. And we need to make sure that our facilitators are our host. So if we haven't done that, let's do that real quickly. And then
the Jamboard link in the chat. If we could we get
I thought it. Nope, I don't see it.
Yes, it was.
Yep.
I'll put it again.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So Amy, whenever you're ready. Okay, it looks like everyone's back. I would like to do a round of share outs to hear what everyone was talking about. So let's start with room 1, which was Tiffany.
Hi, I think we had some people posting to our room as well, so we look very busy on the Jamboard, which is great. But what we mainly discussed is what happens if a school performance category tier changes mid-renewal process or between denial from a district and into a county. We did not come up with any great solutions. We talked about consistency, and but we did talk about determining those on a case-by-case basis as well. And then towards the end of our session, we had a discussion about DAS renewal. So if a charter is up for renewal the 24-25 school year and they applied for DAS status, would they evaluate the renewal using the DAS standard? But Kimberly let us know that if a school applies for DAS for 24-25, they would still have a 24 dashboard. So the alternative status would not happen until 2025. Did anyone from my group want to add anything that I missed? Okay.
All right, great. So I think that I, number one, was a definite culprit of adding to your board. I was in room B with Madison, so some of the notes from our group are on room A. Madison?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so we talked about a couple different topics. We spent a good amount of time talking about verified data and just talking about how other folks are prepping for all of the verified data sources incoming, talking about what 1 year's growth looks like, and also like what's the threshold for how many students are making 1 year's growth for each of the schools. Also talked about how the CSDC has some one-pagers for this information if folks are still trying to figure that out. Talked a little bit about an upcoming deadline of July 1st for the Workplace Violence Prevention Plan. That is a deadline for the charter schools, and talked a little bit about where they can go to get some resources for that. Had quite a lengthy discussion about renewal tiers and what happens if a renewal tier changes midway through the evaluation. and how districts and counties can kind of work together on that. If the district is renewing them as one tier, and then when it gets to the county, they're now placed into a different tier. So what does that look like? Our answer was basically, we don't know. So if folks are looking into that, definitely let us know. And then last, we talked a little bit about the CDE enrollment data that we can request. And if folks have found it helpful, I think the general thought was that it has been, you can see trends, but it's kind of a classic correlation, not causation. So just had a little bit of conversation about how to actually use that data. Yeah, I think that was mostly what we talked about.
Thank you, Madison. Marlo, room C.
Hi there, everyone. I was just trying to put some of our sticky notes in the Jamboard. I'll continue to update those. But in any case, we had a good conversation, which was an interesting one, about when you have a county authorized charter school, and at renewal, if that charter school now wants to go back to the original denying school district and ask for reauthorization there, is there anything in the law that precludes them from doing that? So we had an interesting conversation about that, kind of the background on why that would be the case, because you don't see that very often. In my county, sometimes I'll see a district authorized charter wanting to become a county authorized charter, but typically we don't see it the other way around. In this particular case, the school is involved in a bond program. They're looking to get more facilities, and the local district board may have seen some transition and change to being more charter friendly, and they'd like to have more local control, which obviously they give up when they deny and the charter goes off to the county level. So this was a question that that Bradley brought up, and he was saying that it's stumped their attorneys a little bit, because there doesn't appear to be any language that expressly precludes this, but in fact, the way the law is written, it appears that they really only have the option of going back to their original authorizer. But that was an interesting conversation. We'd love to hear if anyone has any experience with that. In addition, we talked a little bit about an authorizer who received back a safety report. They require 2 safety inspections a year. One is like a fit, and the other one comes from a third party, like their insurance provider. And they've received some concerning information about a condition on campus that would impact the health and safety of students. So we did talk about what are some quick things that can be done to make sure that we're protecting students, and looking at kind of how that whole revocation process is, starting with the notice of concern and requiring the charter school to take action to remedy the problem, and certainly giving them, a period of time to remedy. But in the case of health and safety, asking for the immediate containment of anything that's a safety risk to students. And that was pretty much it. That took up most of our conversation.
Okay, great. Thank you, Marlo. Tom, what did you all talk about in the non-authorizers group?
Well, and just as an aside, I'll just mention, and maybe it's just that I'm slow on the uptake because I haven't been in the non-authorizer room for a while, but I thought it was great, the number and variety of folks and new faces in the non-authorizer room, so that we're including the rest of the sector in our conversations, I thought was really good. And we benefited from their expertise because they had insights into things that not all of us who participate in CASI would have. So one question came up from a dependent school about, are there opportunities for funding internships, work? In other words, they had come across WIOA, and we're told, well, WIOA is not something that a dependent school can apply for directly because it goes through the district. And so there was some discussions about how the district can go after that. And if they're not inclined to, there may be some workarounds for a dependent school to try to find a way to access resources for those kinds of programs. And then we had a discussion about, we put some people on the spot with apologies, but just because we had legislative expertise in the room, and we were talking about, we had mentioned some of the bills that are out there 2 of them stopped, but 2 of them moving. And so we heard from Carlos from CSBA, and then from others about, more kind of specifically about, well, this is kind of what the latest version of the bill is doing on verified data. For example, it's no longer sort of an open-ended extension, but more of it may be a combination of a when the data dashboard includes growth or at a date certain, whichever is earliest. I'm not sure. We weren't sure the exact language, but that's changed in terms of how open-ended it is. And then some observations from a participant, who has heard some of the hearings and expressed a little bit of misgivings about, the degree to which our legislators are really up on this stuff and able to evaluate legislation when it is in the weeds and pretty complicated. And just, the job of advocates to kind of educate the people making these decisions is called into the forefront. Let me just ask from the rest of the folks from our group, you want to embellish upon that or add things that I may have missed? Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. I felt really good about this breakout room. I felt like we were more relaxed and had more time to talk. So moving on. All right, Michelle, meeting feedback.
So please fill out our survey. CASI does take a look at all of the data, all of the information. It helps us make good decisions about where we need to go next. So please fill out the survey and give us your feedback. Next slide,
And
please.
the link is in the, yes, it is. Link is in the chat for the survey. Tom?
Okay, well, we'll be back again for another charter chat in June, same last Wednesday, same time of day. So please join us then. I think Dave mentioned that we have our next quarterly training, which will be virtual. And I'm sorry, we don't have the date here, but he gave it. But it's going to be on DAS schools. And I'll just editorialize. Have you noticed that DAS is DAS, DOSH, there's like, there's 3 ways of saying it. No consensus on the pronunciation of the acronym. But anyway, we're going to do a deep dive on that. So stay tuned for that. And that information will be on the CASI website, and we'll get it out to you in the resources. Just in general, we're kind of coming at the end of people's availability. But just in case, again, if you wanted CASI to bring the show to the road to your neck of the woods in person, we do have the funding and the availability to help with that. And we can tailor a training around what you might see are some local needs in your area that people would be interested in coming to. So we did one in Tulare County, and they were particularly interested in dependent charters because that was a lot of their sector down there. We did one in Kings County and Fresno, where they also had the nuance of charter districts. So we can do a charter authorizing 101 for you, but if you have particular issues that are of interest to folks in your area, let us know and we will see what we can do.
Okay. Next slide. Still you, Tom.
Okay. Oh, well, yes, I can talk forever on this and already took the liberty of doing a little bit in our breakout, but we do have the conference next month. The program is posted if you haven't had a chance to see it. It's not an 100% final, but close to it. And we thank the many people on this call who will be presenting and participating in that. Yep. Did somebody? Oh, sorry. I thought I heard something. Anyway, CASI, of course, is a big part of the program there as well. We do a pre-conference for those who aren't familiar with it, where we split it into 2 half days on Charters 101. It's a good review, or if you're new to the sector, it's a really great overview, and it's a nice prep for the rest of the conference. If there's a deeper dive session, that having the sort of the basics, the refresher on the basics equips you for that. That also can be attended just by itself. If you've only got time for the pre-conference and can't stay for the rest of the conference, it's only $50 to come to the pre-conference. And if you're from a small authorizer, we can reimburse the hotel night for the Tuesday night. Friday, I mentioned in our breakout group, we have kind of a big picture cool thing happening with We've dubbed it Authorizing Realities, Research and Rethinking. We've got Mackie Raymond, the MIT Blueprint, some other folks there, Riverside County doing some of their responsive authorizing work. So a lot of good over the horizon stuff. And we'll also make that a little bit of a celebration of CASI, because going back to the point that they're working on their new CSP grant, we'll be coming to the end of the current CSP grant. So it's kind of a time to reflect on the journey that we've been on together in CASI so far and to celebrate that a little bit. So there's the link. We'd love to see you there.
Great. Next slide. And before I move on to say thank you for joining us, I do want to say that we have 62 people remaining on with us, and we have 8 respondents to our survey. So either that means you think that what we're doing is fine, or you're just not participating. Can you please fill out our survey and let us know what you think? What do we need to change? Thank you, Felicia.
Right.
So you can contact us at casi@cde.ca.gov. We will be sending out the slide deck along with the resource page and the recording after this meeting. I also, somewhere in the chat is the link to our folder where all of this information is also posted, and it will also be on the CDE website. Next slide, please. All right, thank you so much for joining us. And we're actually done early.
All right.
For once. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.